How do you save a front and rear end slide? Well, today we're going to practice that riding some dirt.
It's gotta be against the law to look this damn good.
So there's a couple of different varieties of front end and rear end slides. Let's talk about the easiest ones to save first. A very common and easy to save front end slide is when you're braking really hard in a straight line and you hit some gravel. This one is fairly easy to save. All you need to do is release the brake completely and then gently build back up the pressure because you were braking for a reason, right? Also remember the general rule to be loose on the handlebars and not lock your arms when you're braking. Also remember to look far ahead so that you can see if there's gravel in the road. Another type of easy to save slide is when you're braking really hard for a corner with your front brake and your rear end starts coming out into a slide. This happens because of load transfer. So you're transferring load forward and the rear end gets really light and starts squirming behind the bike. The easy way to save this is to slowly release the front brake pressure. This is going to transfer the load rearward again and thus you regain traction. A way to avoid this happening if it's not intentional is to be a little bit more progressive when you're applying the front brake. This means that you're not transferring load as aggressively forward and the rear end is not going to snap loose. If you watch MotoGP this weekend, you're probably going to be a bit scared about the slide we're going to talk about now. The rear end slide when you're being on the throttle on corner exit. A high side happens when the rear end starts to slide when you're being on the throttle on the exit and you suddenly release the throttle because you got scared about the slide. This makes the rear end regain traction and you're tossed over the bike. So how do we save this infamous slide? Well, this is all about throttle control. The best way to save this type of a slide if you're not very experienced is to simply remain on the throttle and counter steer. When you counter steer, you're going to be able to put the bike back on the right trajectory. And if you're not successful, you're only going to low side. The best way to learn how to not rely on your instincts purely in that type of a situation is to practice this on dirt. Now we get to a really scary front end slide, when the front end starts to slide in the middle of a corner. When you're riding in the dirt, those types of slides happen all the time. And when you get enough experience, you're going to learn how to use throttle control to basically let the rear end steer the bike. You have to get a little bit on the throttle, which is going to transfer load rearward and make the front end regain traction. Remember to subscribe to my channel. There's always something new to learn.
It's gotta be against the law to look this damn good. Cause baby, I feel real good and I wish I would. It's gotta be against the law.